There we go. Record. There we go. Back to recording. Okay. So Isaiah 14:12 to 15, how you have fallen from heaven, you star of the morning, son of the dawn. You have been cut down to the earth, you who defeated the nations. Nevertheless, you'll be brought down to Shiloh, to the recesses of the pit. Okay, so Isaiah 14. First, physically, the Satan character is told that you're going to eat the dust the rest of your life. Snakes now have to crawl on their belly because of this event. They've been cut. So Satan was the morning star was cut down to the earth, was brought down to the realms of the dead, to the recesses of the pit, which is the underworld. Ezekiel 28 verses 7. I threw you to the ground. So he's been cast down to the physical, like to the place of the earth, or the under the earth, the underground. Eating the dust is a representation of being put into the ground, or underneath the earth. The first rebel becomes the Lord of the Dead. So the rebel becomes known by many names. One of them is, some of them are above that you see on your screen here. He sees himself as a god, and he wants to become like God. So God gives him what he wants to some extent. To become a lord, to become a Jehovah, the Lord, but he becomes a Lord of the dead. He owns all that is dead at this point. At this point in the story, so God's like, you know what? You want to become a god, you want to become a ruler over things. He's like, fine, I'll give you the ruler over the things that are dead. That your kingdom is a kingdom of nothing. You get things that die. You're not only punished to be part of the underworld, but you get to rule it. You get to rule the things that are dead, which is, nothing. You just, what use is a kingdom of death, right? So that's what he becomes after he rebels, after he does these things. God curses him and says, you know what, that's it, you're done. You become now the Lord of the Dead. Congratulations, you now have nothing. And we also know him as the devil, Satan, Baal, Beelzebub, and ruler of this world. Those are some of the biblical names that we have, and some Christian names and Jewish names that we understood him by. So the Bible supports this. He is removed from his place in the heavenly realms and gets his just deserts, just deserves. He becomes the Lord of the Dead, the ruler of all that is dead, a kingdom of death and decay. Next, we see Adam and his wife handed out curses as well on top of their death sentence. So in Matthew 4:8-9, the devil took him, being Christ, to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give to you if you fall down and worship me. So not only does the Satan-esque character become the Lord of the Dead, because all things are subject to death, they're subject to him as well. So because death really isn't a part of God's plan, wasn't really a part of his plan. He wanted things to live with him and be with him forever. Death was a result of disobedience to his commandments. And so the one who rules over the dead kingdoms and those that die are subject to the one who rules over it, which is why Satan brings Jesus to the pinnacle of the mountain, or the temple top, whichever translation you will look at. He shows them all the kingdoms of the world because they're subject to him, because they're subject to death. And God rejects him and says, not going to happen. John chapter 12, we see here, judgment is upon this world, and now the ruler of this world will be cast out. And so we have this awesome Jesus quote saying, judgment has now upon this world, and the ruler of the world will be cast out. So death is going to be overthrown. A little hint of what's about to come. So Adam and Eve, curses handed down to Adam and Eve that get passed on to us. Genesis 3:16. To the woman God said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall deliver children, and yet your desire will be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. There's the curse that is handed out to women. We talked about this in our Bible study, how it's interesting when you look at this, that God doesn't say that you're now going to experience childbirth pain. He says, I'm going to greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. Even in the beginnings there was probably hints of pain, just wasn't It probably wasn't unbearable or the way it is now, but God multiplies it because of what had happened. And there's also this hint of your desire will be for your husband, but he shall rule over you. So there's this, we can always, I'm sure I'll do a Bible study of this at some point. But part of the curse that gets handed down is that the husband will rule over the wife, and her desire will be for her husband's place. And so there's the first curse. The second curse is the earth itself, the creation itself. The ground will be cursed because of you. You with hard labor you shall eat from it, and all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles shall grow for you, and yet you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread until you return to the ground, because from the ground you are taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And so we see here now, not only Adam and Eve are cursed to death and humankind's cursed to death, that childbirth is greatly multiplied, that there's this hierarchical structure that's now being placed over, instead of this partnership from the moment of Adam and Eve right up until how Christ tells us to like how we can reverse the curse, where we become partners, because Adam and Eve were first created as literally one. Adam's literal half of himself was created into Eve, and they were equals, and they walked with God as equals. And because of the curse, there was an imbalance that took place, and God corrects that as we enter into a relationship with God again. That imbalance is replaced, and we're no longer ruling over women, and women are desiring over the headship of man. We become partners. Men and women become equals in that sense again. And yes, we have different roles within our relationships, and there are some things men can do that women can't, and then there are things that women can do that men can't, like give birth to children, for example. So there are differences based on genders, but ultimately at the end there we are equal, no different than skin color or race or ethnicity. When you're under Christ, we're all equal, right? That's the reversal of the curse. But the curse not only happens to Adam and Eve and humankind, the earth itself becomes cursed, and it works against mankind. And so we see these things. This is where suffering enters into the world. Suffering from the world's perspective, not suffering from different levels. We'll explore that in the next section. Okay. How does the rebel affect us today? Okay. He's the father of lies. John chapter 8, verses 44, whenever he tells a lie, he speaks from his own nature, because he is a liar and therefore is the father of lies. Satan is actively lying to us, to the end goal of bringing about the destruction of mankind. The rebel will work through a person spreading his lies that will corrupt anyone who will pay attention to the lies being spoken. Even the Christian can be tricked by the lies of the rebel if we're not careful. The rebel has been lying since Eve, and until now his nature has not changed. Satan, the adversary, but Jesus turned to Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan. You are a stumbling block to me, for you are not settling your mind on God's purposes but men's." Matthew 16:23. The rebel has implanted in us his fallen nature, and with it our desires to focus on worldly things. Ultimately, he wants us to take our eyes off God, and is trying to stop God's plan any way that he possibly can. And he's malicious in nature. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. 1 Peter 5:8. He's a lion prowling near the camp, looking for anyone to devour. Working with malicious intent, the enemy of God is laying in wait for a chance for anyone of the followers of God to slip up. And like a lion, he waits for his prey to make a mistake and take advantage and devour the person. The rebel is actively trying to bring about our destruction before we can rescue others from the grasp of death. His lies to us, and he lies to us and tries his best to stop us from doing God's will on earth. And he tries to keep us captive in his lies. We must always be on guard through the power of the Holy Spirit. How does the rebel affect us today? Continuation, he's the sower of evil. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and left. The rebel has sowed among the believers of God false followers of Christ, to the point, false, not only just followers of Christ, but leaders of Christ as well, or leaders and followers who represent Christ, to the point where God will not remove them. So God, just be careful here. God allows the enemy to sow these false believers into God's fold, because He will not remove them until the end of days, when all of us will be removed from the world and will be separated from the tares that the enemy has sowed alongside of us. If in the sower parable, it is told that the angels were like, well, let's just go out and remove the ones that are causing trouble within your field. We'll take the tares out of the wheats, and we'll do it that way. But God says no, because if you remove the tares from among the wheats, there's a chance that you can damage even the chosen. So God chooses to leave both in place until the end of days, when they will be separated between those who are followers of the Lord, those who say, Lord, Lord, have we not done these things in your name? And He will say, depart from me. So the enemy will sow false followers of Christ, and sometimes leaders, amongst the body, and we need to be vigilant, because we have to be aware of what's going on, because he does that. He's the accuser. Now, the salvation and power and the kingdom of our God and authority of His Christ have come, for the accuser, the rebel, of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down, the one who accuses them before our God day and night, and they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb, and because of the world of their testimony, and they did not love their life even when faced with death. Here's one of the major points in how the rebel has affected us in our current day. He stands before God accusing us of all the wrong things that we've done, all the sins that we've committed from our birth right up until the day we die. The accuser will blame us for everything, all the wrongs that we've ever done. What he does is accuse us before God, and to us as well. Not only does he stand before God saying, "Look at Sally over here. She isn't following your commands. She isn't praying to you the way that George prays to you." And then he comes to us and he says, I went to God and I said that you're no longer a good person. And he lies to us, and, God's angry with you. And these lies come to us, and he's accusing us before the throne of God and before us. He will accuse us of the sins that we commit. And when we commit them, mixed with his lies, he'll try to trap us into believing the lies that he speaks. So he has gotten better from the days of Genesis 3 till now, where he mixes truth with lies. And sometimes you may hear truth, but it's mixed with lies. And that's where you need to have your spirit really connected properly to hear what's being spoken of and test it, because it could be a lie you're